We're going to have a UFC fight. Think of this on the grounds of the White House.
The UFC is planning to throw a party at the most powerful address on earth.
We laid out all the renderings and we started to get him to sign off on what he likes and doesn't like, and he loved it.
So, you would think this would be their proudest moment as a legitimate sport, right?
No, I don't give a shit about fighting at the White House.
Wrong.
I want to fight in front of big crowds, bro. It's like, how big can the White House even have of a stadium?
Because while Dana White's busy planning his White House show, something's happening behind the scene that makes you wonder, is this still about fighting?
See a couple of the good American kids that are kind of newer to the sport but show great promise go in there and have a couple of the prelim fights. I always enjoy watching those guys.
Or has the sport just become another piece on someone else's chessboard? And the reason why, it's messier than you think.
We're literally going to take over Washington, D.C. that week.
You see, this card isn't shaping up like a celebration of the sport. It's starting to look more like a red carpet performance where the script gets written long before the fighters even walk out. Big names get the spotlight, merit takes a back seat, and the whole thing starts to blur the line between legitimate fight card and a glorified show for VIPs who don't even watch MMA.
I don't give a f to fight in front of a bunch of fucking billionaires and rich people that can give a shit less about me. And you guys, I want to fight in front of people that are Raw Dog fans, are fans of MMA.
But that's only half the story. So, what exactly is going on with the UFC White House card?
Thank you to the Fighting Business. Absolutely amazing. One of my favorite new channels going right now.
Look, we all know the UFC isn't exactly known for playing fair when it comes to matchmaking, but hosting fights at the White House, now, that takes it to a whole new level.
And they're going to have 8 or 9 championship fights, the biggest fights they've ever had. Everyone's a championship fight.
And here's the thing, this isn't just another Saturday night at the Apex. This is a political showcase. So when you're putting on fights in the most famous building in America, you're not picking fighters based on who deserves it.
Most ever in your career?
That's not fair, man. Think about it. When has the UFC ever thrown an event at a place like this and said, you know what, let's give the spotlight to people like Merab Dvalishvili?
Some of these guys are so stupid, it's...
Never. And that's because as incredible as Merab is, he doesn't have the mainstream star power that makes politicians smile for photo ops.
Does Merab want a shot at the title, or would Merab rather have people under him jump over him? That's a personal decision that he needs to make. If that's what he wants to do, I can tell you how that story ends. It's not a good ending to that story, but he's a big boy. He can figure that out on his own.
Now, this is the same organization that gave Conor McGregor title shots and championships in multiple divisions based largely on his marketability and star power, right? And it's the same company that brought John Jones back after 3 years and fast-tracked him into a heavyweight title shot.
And I don't know what this game is with everybody, but John Jones is the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. Until this fucking guy, and he has been
Plus, they literally created an entire fake belt, the BMF title, just to sell a Masvidal versus Diaz fight.
But honestly, this belt for the bums, First time who fight for this belt?
Diaz and Masvidal.
Diaz and Masvidal. The people who never can be champion, They give him some belt. Guys, be happy. Fight for BMF. But this is...
Should I even talk about Colby Covington getting a third title shot after being 2-2 in 4 years? I mean, you get my point, right?
History repeats itself. It's just going to be another 1776, and that means British don't come to America. You come to America, you're going home empty-handed, Junior.
So when you look at the White House card, you're not looking at sport. You're looking at entertainment. You're looking at the UFC saying, forget the rankings and the winning streaks. We're picking who we want because this is bigger than fighting.
And they're going to have 8 or 9 championship fights, the biggest fights they've ever had. Everyone's a championship fight. And everyone's a legendary type of fight. He's actually holding back fights right now for 6 months so he can do it for this, the 250.
And that's a problem, right? Because when you do that, you're telling every fighter grinding their way up the ranks that none of it matters. You're telling more deserving fighters that all those wins and performances don't mean anything when the UFC decides they need a big name for a big stage. Now, this is not new or anything. The UFC has been ignoring #1 contenders for years.
What's next for Bilal? Where's Hunter? Who's Bilal?
They've pushed aside winning streaks and completely disregarded their own ranking panels whenever it's convenient. But the White House event, that's the loudest, most open example of it yet.
The media will no longer control the rankings in the UFC. It's just I can't handle the incompetence. I can't take it anymore. It's driving me crazy.
Here's where it gets uncomfortable though. This whole thing makes MMA look less like a legitimate sport and more like WWE. Think about the parallels here. Handpicked stars for the show? Checked. Storyline-based matchmaking, Conor's return, Jones' comeback? Check. A venue chosen for the show instead of sporting integrity? Absolutely.
The White House, Dana White said, you and John Jones, that's a real deal. I'm going home, I'm going to get the head down, I'm going to rest back in the pool. So get ready and stay ready, because damage will be done. Oval Office, White House.
Now, the UFC has always walked the line between sport and entertainment. But a White House fight card? That's not walking the line. That's crossing it completely. And the worst part, there's nothing fighters can do about it. The UFC has near total control, so fighters can speak out all they want, but the show goes on. Actually, some of them have.
Have you thought about T-Bird Baller? Do you want to fight at the White House? I'm sure every fighter wants that, or maybe not. Maybe there's some...
No, I don't give a shit about fighting at the fucking White House. I want to fight in front of big crowds, bro. It's like, how big can the White House even like have of a stadium?
Brandon Royval just said what a lot of people are thinking but won't say. Like, this event isn't for real fans or the people who actually watch every card.
This is my top 5 UFC fighters right now. Sean O'Malley, Israel Adesanya, give me Leon Edwards.
It's for billionaires, politicians, and VIPs who probably couldn't name 5 fighters outside of Conor and Jones.
I don't give a fuck about impressing any politicians. I don't care about the presidents. None of them. I really don't fucking want to go fight in the White House, if I'm being honest.
And for fighters like Royval, guys who come from nothing, performing in a room full of elite feels fake. It feels wrong, like some Hunger Game type shit.
Yeah, bro. I don't give a fuck about any of our political figures right now, and it's like to fight in front of them just seems like some fucking Hunger Games type of fucking shit.
Now, the UFC markets itself as the people's sport, right? As the realest, rawest combat competition on earth. But a White House card surrounded by people who've never sat through an entire Bilal fight, those are not real fans, man.
I mean, that's why Michael Chandler's so popular, because he fights like a wild dog.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
I never would recommend to someone, watch this guy and learn something. At the same time, you don't have to be Bilal.
And you know what the craziest part about all of this is? Most fans won't even be there to see it.
I mean, security must be crazy.
The security is going to be crazy. There'll be under 4,000 people there. And I don't even know how people are going to get selected yet. We have to work that out.
You see, the UFC White House card is capped at under 5,000 people on the South Lawn due to security concerns. That's a massive drop from the original expectation of 20,000 or more people. 5,000 for what Dana White is calling one of the biggest cards in UFC history.
Be on the South Lawn. We'll have under 5,000 fans on the South Lawn, and then the park that is connected to the White House will have 85,000 people with screens.
And here's what gets me. Those tickets won't be for sale. They're all complimentary, all of them. In fact, reports show that guest includes diplomats, politicians, and VIPs attending a special dinner before the fight. The kind of people who've probably never sat through fight night prelims in their lives. So let's be real about what's happening here. You've got hardcore fans who buy every pay-per-view, and they're not getting anywhere near this event. Instead, those 5,000 seats are going to people who need background checks just to get in.
I don't even know how many people can get in, not to mention the fact that Secret Service isn't going to let a lot of people come do this. Everybody's going to have background checks. So yeah, whoever actually gets to be there live, it will be such a unique, amazing experience in their lifetime to be able to go to this fight.
White himself admitted everyone attending will need a background clearance because of Secret Service requirements. That's not a ticketing system. That's a guest list.
I mean, the security is going to be a massive issue because at the end of the day, Secret Service's job is to protect the president. It'll be under 5,000 though, but I can't remember what they call it. There's a park that's connected to the White House. We could put 85,000 people over there.
Now, Dana says he's setting up screens in a nearby park for 85,000 people. Great. So real fans get to watch on a screen in a park while billionaires and politicians sit cage-side at the White House. You see how that looks, right? It's like throwing the most exclusive party and telling your day ones they can watch through the window. And sure, watching on a screen is better than nothing, but it misses the entire point of what combat sports are supposed to be about.
Oh, like, I don't give a fuck to fight in front of a bunch of fucking billionaires and rich people that fucking could give a shit less about me. And fuck you guys, I want to fight in front of people that are Raw Dog fans, are fans of MMA, and like, you know, that are like fucking, that could relate to me.
Here's what makes this even more absurd. The UFC is dropping $700,000 just to replace the grass on the South Lawn after the event because the 15,000-pound octagon and all the production equipment are going to destroy it. Think about that for a second. $700,000 to fix a lawn, and that's just one expense. Dana White himself said this is going to be the most challenging and expensive event they've ever done. And the logistics alone are a nightmare. Secret Service protocols, background checks for everyone, custom infrastructures, and interagency coordination that makes a normal fight look like a walk in the park.
I can't imagine, like you said, the security, the behind the scenes, how much stuff's really gonna happen. I'm just like,
A lot of weird pressure too.
Probably.
Because it's like all the security and the protocols, all that extra shit in your mind before you have to go out there and fight.
Yeah, it just seems like a lot more than what it needs to be.
So you've got an event that costs millions to produce, requires tearing up and replacing part of the White House lawn, and needs more security clearance than a Pentagon briefing. But real fans can't even buy a ticket. The whole thing feels backward. The UFC built this sport on the back of loyal fans who showed up when nobody else cared. And now, those same fans get pushed to a park with a screen while the people who never cared get front row seats. So, here's where we're at. The UFC is planning this massive event at the White House, and on paper, it sounds incredible, right? Fights at the most powerful address on earth. That's history. But when you peel back the layers, when you realize it's not about making history, it's about making a statement, and that statement has very little to do with fighting. Because it's about star power over success. It's about politics over sports. It's about the show mattering more than the people putting their bodies on the line. And the fighters see it, even if they all can't say it as bluntly as Royval did. They see it. Because at the end of the day, fighters don't get into this sport to perform for billionaires. They get into it to prove something, to test themselves. And when the UFC turns that into a red carpet event where the script's already written, when they prioritize names over rankings and show over legitimacy, that's when the sport stops being a sport. That's when it becomes something else entirely. And maybe that's fine for some people, you know? But for guys like Brandon Royval, for fighters who came from nothing and fought their way to everything, they didn't sign up for this. They signed up to fight. And if that fight happens to be in front of people who actually care, people who respect what they do, then that's where they want to be, because that's what this sport was supposed to be about. And somewhere along the way, we forgot.
Like, I don't give a fuck to fight in front of a bunch of fucking billionaires and rich people that fucking could give a shit less about me and probably throwing parlays. It's like, fuck you guys. I want to fight in front of people that are Raw Dog fans, are fans of MMA, and like, you know, that are like fucking, that could relate to me. It's like, I'm not trying to fight these fucking assholes. Like, you know, fuck all these politicians.